Hello friends, and welcome to the Forgotten Past. On this channel, you'll explore untold stories, lost events, ancient discoveries, and hidden secrets from across history. Let's view the video. 50 Insane Gettysburg Facts. Fact 1. The bloodiest battle in U.S. history. The Battle of Gettysburg was the deadliest conflict on American soil, with over 51,000 casualties in just 3 days. It became a symbol of the Civil War's brutal toll on both Union and Confederate forces. Fact 2. Fought on Independence Anniversary Week. Gettysburg occurred from July 1 to 3, 1863, right before Independence Day. The ironic timing highlighted the internal struggle for the nation's soul while Americans prepared to celebrate freedom. Fact 3. A town of only 2,400 people. Despite its global fame today, Gettysburg was a small Pennsylvania town with just 2,400 residents when the battle broke out, quickly overwhelmed by over 170,000 soldiers and the chaos of war. Fact 4. Accidental encounter sparked the battle. Neither army planned to fight at Gettysburg. A Confederate search for shoes in town unexpectedly led to an engagement with Union cavalry, spiraling into one of history's most decisive battles. Fact 5. Lee was missing crucial intel. General Robert E. Lee lacked real-time intelligence at Gettysburg because Confederate cavalry leader J.E.B. Stuart was out joyriding and failed to report enemy positions in time, putting Lee at a critical disadvantage. Fact 6. Union held the high ground. Union forces managed to seize key high ground positions, Cemetery Hill, Culp's Hill, and Little Round Top, giving them strategic superiority. This elevation advantage played a crucial role in their defensive success. Fact 7. Pickett's charge was a massacre. Pickett's charge, on Day 3, was Lee's desperate gamble, sending 12,500 Confederates across open ground under heavy fire. Nearly half were killed or wounded, ending the battle in a devastating Confederate defeat. Fact 8. Lincoln wasn't the main speaker. At the Gettysburg Cemetery dedication, President Abraham Lincoln was a guest, yet not the main speaker. That role went to Edward Everett, who spoke for 2 hours. Lincoln's 2-minute address became legendary. Fact 9. Civilians caught in the crossfire. Civilians huddled in basements as bullets shattered homes. One young girl, Jenny Wade, became the only civilian killed during the battle, struck by a stray bullet while baking bread for Union troops. Fact 10. Medical conditions were horrific. Field hospitals were set up in barns, churches, and homes. Amputations were frequent, tools unsterilized, and infection rampant. Surgeons worked endlessly in blood-soaked conditions with screams echoing throughout the town. Fact 11. Shoes were a trigger. Rumors of a shoe supply in Gettysburg attracted Confederate troops, who entered the town for footwear. Instead, they encountered Union cavalry, accidentally igniting one of the war's most pivotal engagements. Fact 12. Over 5,000 horses died. More than 5,000 horses and mules died during the battle. Their decomposing bodies filled the air with unbearable stench, and many were buried in mass graves or burned after the conflict. Fact 13. Weather was sweltering. Soldiers fought in intense July heat with limited water supplies. Many succumbed to heat exhaustion. The scorching sun baked the dead, complicating burial efforts and worsening the already overwhelming stench. Fact 14. A sister saved Cemetery Hill. When Confederate troops tried to overrun Cemetery Hill, Union reinforcements rushed to hold the line, thanks to the fast decisions of General Winfield Scott Hancock, who arrived just in time. Fact 15. The battlefield spanned 25 square miles. The Battle of Gettysburg raged across 25 square miles of farmland, hills, and woods, making it difficult to coordinate troop movements and contributing to the confusion and bloodshed across such vast terrain. Fact 16. Bodies were everywhere for months. After the battle, corpses remained scattered for weeks. Burial crews worked relentlessly, but many soldiers weren't identified or properly interred. Bones were still being discovered decades later. Fact 17. The Gettysburg Address was only 272 words. Lincoln's Gettysburg Address was just 272 words long, yet became one of the most powerful speeches in American history, redefining the war as a fight not only for Union, but for equality. Fact 18. The Peach Orchard became a death trap. The Union's left flank at the Peach Orchard was fiercely contested. Poorly aligned positions left soldiers exposed, and Confederate artillery tore through the orchard, turning it into a bloody killing field. Fact 19. Chamberlain's bayonet charge saved the flank. Outnumbered and nearly out of ammunition, Colonel Joshua Chamberlain ordered a daring bayonet charge down Little Round Top. His 20th Maine Regiment's bold move stopped the Confederate advance and helped secure the Union's position. Fact 20. Snipers hid in Devil's Denver. The rocky outcrop known as Devil's Den was occupied by Confederate sharpshooters. They used natural cover to target Union officers on Little Round Top, making it one of the most dangerous zones of the battle. Fact 21. A Confederate soldier was found mummified. In 1864, the preserved body of a Confederate soldier was found in a Gettysburg rock crevice. The dry conditions mummified him naturally. His identity remains a mystery, becoming part of local legend. Fact 22. The angle became the high water mark. During Pickett's charge, Confederate troops briefly breached the Union line at a stone wall known as the Angle. This spot became known as the high water mark of the Confederacy, symbolizing their closest approach to victory. Fact 23. Soldiers used dead bodies as shields. In desperation, some soldiers used fallen comrades as protection against gunfire. Eyewitnesses described men hiding behind corpses or stacking bodies to form crude barriers during intense firefights, showing the extreme horrors of Civil War combat. Fact 24. Over 20,000 were left wounded. The wounded were everywhere, screaming in pain, begging for water. Over 20,000 soldiers were injured in just 3 days, flooding makeshift hospitals and overwhelming doctors with gruesome injuries and no anesthesia. Fact 25. Women disguised as soldiers. Several women fought in the battle disguised as men. They enlisted under false names and identities, revealing the hidden role of women in the war. Some were only discovered after being wounded or killed. Fact 26. A dog stayed by his master's side. A Union soldier's dog, Sally, stayed by his dead body for days, refusing to leave. Soldiers later found her starving but alive. She became a beloved mascot and symbol of loyalty. Fact 27. Gettysburg had its own ghost stories. Shortly after the battle, locals and soldiers began reporting strange lights, phantom voices, and ghostly soldiers on the battlefield. Gettysburg quickly earned a reputation as one of America's most haunted places. Fact 28. Ammunition was sometimes improvised. Some desperate soldiers ran out of ammo and began using rocks, buttons, and even belt buckles as projectiles. With supply lines strained, troops often scavenged the dead for bullets and powder. Fact 29. A black man was mistakenly buried among Confederates. Wesley Culp, a black Confederate cook, died at Gettysburg and was buried among soldiers. Decades later, his grave sparked controversy, as historians debated the legitimacy of black Confederate participation. Fact 30. Gettysburg changed war photography. Photographers like Matthew Brady and Alexander Gardner captured the aftermath of Gettysburg, including images of bloated corpses. It was the first time civilians saw such raw brutality, transforming public perception of war forever. Fact 31. Cannons were everywhere, but often missed. Over 600 cannons were used during the battle, creating thunderous barrages. However, most Civil War cannons were highly inaccurate. Many cannonballs overshot or undershot, causing terror but less damage than expected. Fact 32, dead were buried by race. Even in death, racism persisted. Black soldiers and laborers were often buried separately from whites, and many were denied formal graves or markers, highlighting Civil War-era segregation, even on the battlefield. Fact 33, horses were buried in mass pits. So many horses died that their bodies were dragged into enormous pits and burned. The stench covered miles. And locals used vinegar-soaked cloths over their faces just to breathe. Fact 34, Gettysburg had a balloon spy. The Union Army deployed a reconnaissance balloon over the battlefield to observe Confederate movements. Though primitive, it gave valuable intel. The balloonist's aerial view was among the earliest forms of wartime surveillance. Fact 35, General Reynolds was killed early. Union General John F. Reynolds was one of the highest-ranking officers killed at Gettysburg. He was shot in the neck early on July 1 while rallying troops. His death left a leadership void for Union forces. Fact 36, churches became hospitals. Local churches were turned into emergency hospitals. Pews were removed or bloodied, floors stained, and sanctuaries filled with the groans of the wounded. Some church walls still bear blood marks and bullet holes today. Fact 37, the Irish Brigade charged heroically. The famed Irish Brigade suffered severe losses at Gettysburg. Known for their bravery and green flags, they led charges against entrenched Confederate positions, refusing to retreat despite overwhelming odds. Fact 38, bodies were shipped home in whiskey barrels. Families paid to retrieve fallen soldiers. Without refrigeration, bodies were often preserved in whiskey barrels to mask the smell and delay decomposition during long train rides home. Fact 39, townspeople helped bury the dead. Gettysburg citizens helped bury thousands of bodies in the heat, often with little protection. The smell of death lingered for weeks, and many residents never recovered from the trauma. Fact 40, Abraham Lincoln almost didn't attend. Lincoln debated attending the cemetery dedication. He was ill, politically hesitant, and unsure if it was appropriate. Ultimately, he traveled quietly by train, and delivered one of the most iconic speeches in U.S. history. Fact 41, Gettysburg had its own cemetery for the Union only. The Gettysburg National Cemetery was created exclusively for Union dead. Confederate soldiers were buried elsewhere, reflecting the bitter divisions that continued even in death. Fact 42, Confederate dead were moved years later. Southern states paid to exhume and reinter their dead in Southern cemeteries years after the battle. Thousands were moved from Pennsylvania to Virginia and Georgia, often without accurate identification. Fact 43, battle sounds heard 100 miles away. The thunder of artillery during the battle was so intense, it was reportedly heard over 100 miles away in Pittsburgh. Locals described the earth shaking for miles around Gettysburg. Fact 44, civilian homes were ransacked. Soldiers looted homes for supplies, food, and shelter. Homes were riddled with bullet holes, furniture used as barricades, and entire pantries raided. Some residents returned to find everything destroyed. Fact 45, dead were buried with playing cards. Personal items like playing cards, letters, and keepsakes were buried with soldiers. In some cases, comrades placed them in graves as final tokens of memory and identity when names weren't known. Fact 46, Gettysburg College was overrun. Gettysburg College became a makeshift hospital and war zone. Students helped care for the wounded, and professors joined local militias. The campus was permanently changed by the presence of war. Fact 47, many soldiers were teenagers. Many soldiers fighting at Gettysburg were under 18. Boys as young as 13 served as drummers, messengers, and even riflemen. Some lied about their age to enlist and died far from home. Fact 48, the battle was reenacted as early as 1913. 50 years after the battle, aging Union and Confederate veterans returned to Gettysburg for a massive reunion and reenactment, hugging old enemies and camping side by side on the same ground where they once fought. Fact 49, some soldiers fought barefoot. With supplies running low, some Confederate soldiers fought barefoot, their uniforms ragged and boots worn out. The rocky Pennsylvania terrain added to their suffering during long marches and brutal combat. Fact 50, the battlefield is still a graveyard. Today, Gettysburg is a preserved battlefield and national park, but bones and artifacts are still found occasionally. The ground remains sacred, a vast graveyard filled with the echoes of America's deadliest days. Thanks for watching The Forgotten Past. If you enjoyed the journey, like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a hidden story or untold truth. New discoveries await. See you in the next video.